Okay, again, my name is Marie Johnson. I'm the Director of Student Financial Services here at the University of Vermont. And I appreciate you taking some time out of your busy schedules to go over some items with me that hopefully will help you be wildly successful in navigating your finances at UVM. Sorry, just technical things. Okay, so the first thing we're going to cover is steps for success, how to start your financial journey at UVM. Then we're going to dig a little deeper with billing and payment, financial aid. We'll talk about some uncertain financial circumstances in case any of you are experiencing that, and then planning moving forward. I will also leave time at the end for questions and answers, and I have turned on the Q&A within the presentation. So hopefully if anybody has a need to ask a question, you can use that feature. All right. So I'll address as many questions as I can. And if I'm unable to address a particular question, we'll make sure to get that information for you. This is not the time to ask about individual personal financial circumstances. I want to respect everybody's privacy, and this isn't exactly the format that it would be helpful to answer those, but you can certainly send those directly to our team at sfs@uvm.edu. We have more information on our website. If you haven't checked that out yet, I would encourage you to do so. There's also an introductory video for students via the student checklist that can be really helpful in attending to lots of things that need to be done between now and the start of classes. And I did want to alert you that the university will be closed for business from December 24th through January 1st. So we will reopen on the 2nd of January. However, if you want to interact with our office during that time, certainly send an email. And when we get back, we will work on those as quickly as we possibly can. Okay, so steps for success. I should have said that Student Financial Services, we handle kind of all of the money matters. So we handle financial aid, all of the billing, student refunds. We handle scholarship administration. We have some institutional loans that you might have as part of a financial aid award. And we work with federal loans, and we also oversee the Student Employment Office. So kind of all those money matters are handled here in Student Financial Services. We recognize that in many cases, it's not just the student that is working through navigating finances. And so we've created functionality for the student to be able to authorize other people in their support system to be able to access pertinent information. So a student can elect to grant access to an individual to see all billing information, which also permits us to talk to that person regarding any billing related matters. They can elect to provide them access to financial aid information. Again, we can speak to that person that's authorized as a proxy user regarding any financial information, financial aid information, and then they can elect the same person to have access to both. So it's helpful to the student to be able to distinguish who they might want help with in what areas, because sometimes there's some different situations where someone is only responsible for helping with billing and they don't want them to have access to financial aid and vice versa. The student is in the driver's seat, however, and it is something the student would have to take care of in granting this access. They're essentially providing the university with a FERPA release in order to engage in conversations and interactions with that. But once someone is set up as a proxy user, they will receive email notifications regarding many pertinent things like billing notifications, when financial aid offers are out there, if we're looking for any outstanding documents for financial aid. So we really try and use that as a good mechanism to support the student, but also allowing the student to take ownership of their own account, their own responsibilities. Ultimately, legal responsibility is with the student, even if they have people that are willing to help them and support them, or someone else might be making payment. It is still the student's ultimate responsibility to navigate all of that. We look at this as an opportunity for our office and anyone they set up as a proxy user to be helping the student get used to things and make sure to meet deadlines and building some independence so that when they do graduate from UVM, they understand how to manage their finances and attend to deadlines and other important things. So it really is a good partnership if we can work together on that. To establish a proxy user, the student would go through the My UVM portal and go to the Student Financial Services tab. And one of the options there is set up a proxy user. And the screen would look a bit like this for them. And they would indicate when they would like to start that proxy and when they would like that to end. And then they click over to another tab for the authorization, and that's where they select what they would like that person to have access to. And at any point in time, the student could go back in here and revoke that access. This is what it looks like when a proxy user has been set up for the proxy to be able to access that. So these screens just kind of demonstrate that. And sometimes people forget the PIN number to log in, and that's okay. We have a spot where they can go in and click the forgot PIN and be able to reestablish a connection so that they can access information. The next thing that's important to take care of is accepting and finalizing financial aid offers. So if we have generated a financial aid offer for the student, they would also access that through the UVM portal. And under the Student Financial Services, there would be an option for financial aid. And they would click through there, look to see if we're requesting any documentation. I will share that any scholarships or grants, any free money, we accept on behalf of the student. We assume that every student wants that. So those are already taken care of. But things that would require action by the student, and this is something that only the student can do. So while I shared information about how the student can set up a proxy user, the proxy access does not permit anybody to accept financial aid on behalf of the student. The student must actually make those determinations. Someone else can be sitting with them and helping them through that, but the student has to be one making those determinations. So that's where they would make decisions on any loans that have been offered to them. If they have been offered the federal work study program and they wish to secure a job through the federal work study program during the spring semester, they would go ahead and accept the financial aid award in their federal work study. And once they hit submit, our office would start working with them on letting them know about next steps on that. So we just generated the bill on December 3rd. So any loans that were accepted prior to that date should have been reflected on the statement that was issued. But it's okay if that doesn't happen at that point in time, because if you accept afterwards and you go to the account activity within the billing platform, you would be able to see anything either memoed or deducted from there once it's able to pay to the account. So students need to complete some loan requirements. So if this is the first time that they're borrowing through the federal direct loans at our institution, which I'm assuming that would be the case for anybody on here, they would need to complete an entrance counseling session. This is an online session, and they would access that through studentaid.gov. They would also need to complete a master promissory note. So once they've taken care of the master promissory note and the entrance counseling, then in future semesters or future years, all the student would have to do is go ahead and accept the amount of the loan that they would like to borrow, and they won't have to repeat these steps again. So this master promissory note will work for them at this institution throughout the remainder of their program. So they would log into the studentaid.gov using their FAFSA credentials. Some students may have been awarded a UVM Clark loan. For those, once the student has accepted the loan, we would issue a promissory note through PDF, and that would be available through the student portal. They would download that, and that would require a wet signature, and we would need those documents mailed or dropped off in our office for the student to be able to obtain that loan. Some students may be receiving scholarships, so they may have received scholarship from a high school, foundation, employer, or something like that. If anybody has any scholarships, not through the university, but outside scholarships, private scholarships, they would need to send a copy of award letters and or scholarship checks to our office, and the address is listed there. It's also listed on our website in case you don't have a pen and paper handy. We would ask that you would note the student's name and 95 ID number on the check so that we know who it applies to and we can make sure to record that properly. And also, if the check is made out to the student, they would need to sign the check and then sign it over to UVM. Some checks may be made payable to both. In that case, they would just need to provide their signature. They could send that to us, and then we will endorse the check once we receive it. The university requires that all students have adequate health insurance that will cover them while they're in attendance at UVM. So that's something that both needs to be done now, but will need to be done on an annual basis. So if you haven't already completed the health insurance decision, that's something that actually a student or parent or other family member can take care of. It's the one thing that the student alone is not the only one that can take action there. So the enrollment for the insurance is required if the student does not have other health insurance coverage. So at the time we generated the bill, if we did not have a health insurance decision, you may see a health insurance charge on the student account or as part of that bill. But if you have other health insurance coverage, you can go ahead now and supply that insurance information by completing the decision waiver, and that charge will be reversed off the account. And also, there was a hold that was placed on the account by the Center for Health and Wellbeing. That hold would automatically come off once an insurance decision was made. So if you had a hold placed on your account because you didn't make a decision, but you actually do need the university's insurance, you would just go in and accept the university's insurance and the hold would automatically be removed. The premium for the insurance is $2,601 for the spring semester. It actually coverage would be from January 1st through July 31st. And information about what it covers and all of that would be on the Center for Health and Wellbeing website. So the student should have been receiving emails regarding that, and that is accessible through the UVM website. So I'd encourage you to check that out. One mistake that I see happening sometimes is the student may not have taken care of this insurance decision. Now they're on campus and they realize they have a hold on their account for not having made an insurance decision. And they just want to get that hold off because they want to add a class or switch a class or something. And they might make a decision to just say yes for now. And then they'll go in and supply that insurance information later. We've actually seen where students forget to do that other part, and now they've locked themselves into a pretty substantial financial obligation when they might have other coverage. So it's really important to not say yes to that insurance just to get rid of a hold, but to actually make an active decision, the proper decision, and take care of that. If we have not received a decision, or if you've accepted the insurance, by February 15th, people are locked into that regardless. So I just want to point that date out. So that's one, just take care of as soon as you can, please. Okay, so on the meeting tonight, there may be students that are transfer students or students that are brand new. This is their first time attending college. Sometimes what we have is people who have experience, or families who have experience with other institutions, is they assume that all colleges handle these things the same way. And while that might be true in some cases, that we handle some things similarly, I'm here to try and help you understand how we manage things at UVM. So we have generated the bills, uh, and they're due by 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, January 10th. So I want to make sure everybody is marking their calendars. This is a busy time of year. And sometimes people assume that there's a grace period, or as long as they pay by midnight, or other things, that everything will be fine. We purposely don't have a grace period on our bill. We set our due date for the last possible time that we actually need payment made. So we've given everybody as long as we can give them for a due date on that bill. So we don't build in a grace period after that. So generally, our bill due dates are just before we're going to issue our next bill. So we need to know exactly how everything's being paid. And it's also set to make sure that you understand how you're going to cover the expenses for the semester. We don't want anybody to start the semester without full knowledge of how they're going to settle their financial obligations. We don't want anyone to end up in a situation where they have no means to pay and now they become a collection account. That doesn't serve anybody well, and that's the last thing we want to have happen. So we've purposely set our bill due date so it's in advance of the semester, so that you understand what your obligations are and you've worked with us to meet those obligations. We have our bills are subject to a $250 late payment fee and a hold on the account if the bill settlement is not received by that due date. I can tell you, no one here finds any pleasure in charging late payment fees or putting holds on the account. If we never had to charge a late payment fee again, we would all be thrilled. But the reality is some people, regardless of our efforts to send reminders and notice everything that we try and do, will still move past that bill due date and not have given us information or sufficient information to let us know how the bill is being paid. So we're expecting a review and response to our bill. Please don't assume that we know how it's being paid. With over 14,000 students, with lots of different combinations of financial arrangements, we can't assume anything. So if we're generating a bill and it's showing a balance due, then we must have a response and payment information or payment by that bill due date. And I'll cover it a little bit more in the next slide. Sorry. Okay, so we have online payment options. Though what we have available is an electronic check, ACH, through a regular checking or savings account. There's no additional fee if you wish to pay that way. This will not work with a money market or any kind of brokerage account. In those cases, if you're taking money out of one of those accounts, you would need to deposit the money into your regular bank account and then make payment from that. In order to make an electronic check payment, you would not punch in a debit card information. Debit card transactions are treated just like credit card transactions, and they're subject to a 2.85% service charge by the processor, credit card processor. Another company handles that for us. So please don't make that mistake. We don't want people having to pay anything more. If you have the money in your checking account, please just go ahead, or your savings account, go ahead and make an ACH payment. And that transaction, as soon as you've hit submit, if it's a successful transaction, will automatically post to the student's account, and we will immediately be able to see that. There's no delay in that. If for some reason that payment was returned by the processor as for insufficient funds, we would usually find out a couple of days later. But at least if in most, we don't have many of those, but at least in most cases, it's successful. But make sure to check with your bank before entering that information that you're using the correct routing number and account number to make sure that payment can be successful. So, as I said earlier, the statement is a snapshot in time, so it's going to reflect what had been in place at the time the bill was generated. That was December 3rd. Anything that's happened since then, so if you've gone in and accepted some financial aid, or maybe you've made a payment, or maybe a 529 payment has come in, or a scholarship, that you would be able to see on the account and billing activity tab. And that's also where you would go to make payment. We do have an option for people who are not set up as a proxy user to make a guest payment, but they would need the student's name and ID number to make that payment. Whoops. We also have a number of students that get payments or request payments from a 529 plan. So please request those early, get those rolling, and make sure that the student ID number is referenced with those payments. We offer a monthly payment plan. It is typically a 5-month payment plan if you would establish it by December 1st, and the last payment is April 1st. So monthly payments due on the 1st of the month. They're let's see, sorry. You need to enroll by December 21st, and if you do so, you pay the first payment, there would be a 20% down payment, and then the January payment that you would need to make. After the 21st, you would divide the balance into 4 equal payments. And to enroll, log in as a proxy user or as a student, and look under monthly payment plan link under the view account and billing activity for payments. All right. Federal student loans. I talked about that a little bit earlier about having to do the entrance counseling and also the master promissory note, but here's some information about those loans. So we would determine automatically what the student is eligible for, if they're eligible for a portion in subsidized or unsubsidized. The difference is that the subsidized loan, the student would have to have some level of demonstrated financial need. And for those loans, the interest on the loan while the student is in school and during the grace period would be covered by the government. Essentially, no interest would accrue and be added to the loan. For the unsubsidized loan, that interest would be accruing, and the student can either make interest payments while they're in school, or that money that has accumulated in interest would be capitalized, essentially added to the principal of the loan when the student goes into repayment. Both of these loans require the FAFSA as well to be considered eligible. If you wish to borrow from the Federal Direct Parent Plus loan, this is a parent loan. Just as the direct student loans are student loans, it's important, regardless of what conversations may be happening within your household, the student loans are the student's obligation, And even if there's some thought or idea that someone else will pay those loans, a student must understand that they are legally responsible, and whatever personal arrangements, if those fall through or not, the student is legally responsible to repay that loan. Similarly, the Parent Plus loan is the parent's obligation. So it is a credit-based federal loan in the parent's name. So it can't be a grandparent or some other person, and it can't be in the student's name. And it can be, the person can borrow would either be the parent listed on the FAFSA or a legal parent may borrow. These come with a 10-year repayment, and it does begin while the student is enrolled. There is an option to request a deferred repayment on that. And the interest rate on that loan is 9.08%. There is an origination fee. So there's an origination fee on the direct student loan as well. It's an amount of money that's subtracted from the loan amount before disbursement is made. That's withheld by the government. So it's just important to take that into account when you're thinking about the amount you might want to borrow, that there will be a certain portion withheld. So not all of that will come through. So an example would be if you borrow $100, the federal government's going to send us $96. And to apply, you would go to studentaid.gov. Some students may wish to access private student loans. These are credit-based loans offered by a wide range of banks, lending agencies, credit unions. There are some lenders that do private parent loans as well. Generally, a cosigner is required for the student to borrow. And it's important when you're looking into private student loans. Some of the marketing practices can be a bit deceiving. So they might be showing a really attractive interest rate, but that could be an interest rate that only a very small number of borrowers might actually receive. And so once you start going down the application process, you might find that you have a higher interest rate than what you're anticipating. So please be careful. I'm not trying to completely steer people away, but it can be a little deceptive sometimes. We have listed on our website the private loans through this company, Elm Select. And if there's a way for you to look at who our previous students have borrowed from, so you can get some sense there. But if you already have a relationship with a particular bank or credit union, that may be also a good option for you to look into that. I recommend that every student set up direct deposit, even if they're not right now anticipating that they might be in a situation where their student account is overpaid. Or it might be that we have a need to return money and we want to get that money out as soon as possible. But if we have to stop because a student has not signed up for direct deposit, then it just slows things down. We don't issue checks to students if there's excess funds on their accounts. It is only available through direct deposit. So they can set that up through the UVM portal. And we do not at this time have a direct deposit option for a parent or a plus loan borrower. That's typically when we would be issuing a refund to a parent, is when there's excess funds created by the parent plus loan. Those we would issue checks for, but it's important, just take care of that. It's on the student checklist. Go ahead and set that up, and then you don't have to worry about it. If we ever need to send you money, we can do it as quick as possible. So I've covered a lot of information, but it's always hard when we get on the other side of the bill due date. We do see some trends. And so I thought I'd share with you, rather than keeping it a secret, why people tend to get, or the top reasons why people tend to be charged a late fee or get holds on their account. They just forgot. They got busy, they planned to take care of it, and by the time they realize it, they've received notice that they've already been charged a late payment fee. They assume as I shared earlier, that it's not really a 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time deadline. They assume, as long as it's in at some point in time that day, that's fine. That's also not true. Um, this next one is a common one. You have made a plan, you know exactly where all of the different sources of money are going to come in, and you may even be told that money will arrive by our bill due date, and then it doesn't. The very best thing that you can do when you have money coming from different sources, like a scholarship, a 529 plan, or maybe you've applied for a private student loan or a monthly payment plan, is as soon as you have that plan in place, to send us an email and let us know what your plan is. Then we have a chance to look at that and determine if you've made acceptable financial arrangements or not. If there's a gap, we have a chance to communicate back out to you what's necessary so that then you can take care of that before the bill due date. We do answer email responses on a first come, first served basis. And I will tell you, if we have determined that your response to your bill or the information we have is sufficient, that appears everything's going to be covered, we are going to send an email to the student and anyone set up as a proxy user, letting them know we have information. It may not mean that everything is actually paid at that point in time, but perhaps a parent loan has been accepted for a sufficient amount, and everything looks good on that to cover that, or you received notice of a monthly payment plan, or you've sent us proof that you've requested a 529 plan payment for sufficient amount to cover the bill. Then we want to give you credit for that. So this is a partnership, but we really need you to let us know how that's going to be paid. And we need that information prior to the deadline. Another thing that we often have is people go ahead and request a 529 plan payment, and then they figure everything's all set, but we don't know about it, and that plan payment, for whatever reason, doesn't show up on time. Um, we aren't able to even follow up with you because we don't know that that's how it's going to be paid. It looks to us like the bill's just unpaid. So please let us know about that. Show us proof you've requested that payment and the amount, and we'll take that into account. The last one is a big one. As I mentioned earlier, with that electronic payment, you get instant notice. We have still a number of people who wait until the very last day and they mail a payment. We don't even see envelopes, so postmark will not work for us. We don't look at postmark. The money has to be received. Now, we do use a lockbox through a bank that they post the payments. That's where we direct any mailed payments to go there. But if it's getting closer to the bill due date and you haven't sent a check and you still want to mail a check, or you need to mail a check, then I recommend that you overnight that through FedEx or UPS, not even through the US Postal Service. And you would send that directly to Student Financial Services at 85 South Prospect Street, 223 Waterman Building, the same address that's earlier in the presentation and available on our website. Send it there rather than to the PO box. Those delivery people will walk right into our office. We will get those payments processed. Immediately you'll get proof of that. So while I know people may prefer just to send it for whatever reason through the Postal Service, that might arrive somewhere at UVM. We won't get it. We can't chase that down. It doesn't work as well. So if you insist on mailing a payment and you're right up against the deadline, I do we don't get any kickback by FedEx or UPS, but those we don't usually have any problem. They come right into the office. And we're able to sign for those. So as I mentioned earlier, some of you may have been given a federal work study award as part of your financial aid offer. That is based on financial need. So not everybody who might want to get a job on campus will have that as part of their financial aid award. It's not something that's going to pay towards your tuition bill. So the amount of your award is not going to come onto your account. So don't deduct that. It just means that you can earn up to that amount through the semester. So you would secure a job. We are the uvm.edu/student employment is where you would go to look for a job, and you would apply for jobs you're interested in. Supervisors would interview and interact with you, and then they would submit the hire. You need to have secured a job if you have federal work study by February 15th. All of the hiring process has to be done by then. If you were not awarded the work study award, but you still want an on-campus job, we have a number of employers, including our office, that do employ students on campus that are not part of the work study program. So you would also be able to see that through that same website. Students would need to sign up for a different direct deposit, not the one I was talking about, which is related to any refunds our office would issue. This would be a different direct deposit through the payroll office. So make sure that if you're going to secure a job on campus, that you have to do two different direct deposit. So sometimes, unfortunately, people have some situation that wasn't captured on the FAFSA, some downturn in income, maybe a job loss or some change in circumstances. Maybe there's a separation in the family or something like that. For these circumstances, I recommend that you reach out to our office, and a member of our team will kind of talk you through what we would need for information and whether that would be something we could look into or not, and what kind of documentation we might need for your circumstance. So that's something to just reach out to us about. However, in terms of responding to the bill, it's unlikely that we would have a chance to review and respond to that appeal prior to the bill due date. So you should use the existing financial aid award to respond to the bill. It doesn't mean that if you've found a way to settle your bill, that we're not going to consider the appeal. We absolutely will consider it, but we just won't necessarily be able to do that before the bill due date, and it will not extend a bill due date for you if you've submitted an appeal. So I just want to make sure you're aware of that. Okay, I want to share our tuition refund schedule. So while we hope it's a wildly successful semester for all our students, sometimes there are situations where a student may need to withdraw. So this is the refund schedule to let you know how that would be handled. Sometimes people assume if for some reason they experience some medical situation and they needed to withdraw from the university, that everything would be refunded, whether it's withdrawing for personal reasons or for medical reasons. This same schedule is going to apply. So might be a good idea to take a snapshot of this. It is also available on our website to be aware, but the student would need to take action to by these dates in order to receive the refund shown here. After February 11th, there is no refund. This same schedule works for each kind of semester. The dates would be different. Summer session, if you end up taking summer classes, those courses are smaller in length, shorter in length. So you have to pay really close attention to the refund periods for those. But for a standard fall or spring semester, this is pretty similar. The first 2 weeks of classes, there can be 100% refund if all of the courses are dropped during that period. And then we go to a 50% period for the next week, 25%, and then after that, no refund. Now, housing and meal plan charges are prorated based on the number of days that you're in the residence hall. But after January 27th, there is no refund. So please keep that in mind. So every year you will need to reapply for financial aid if you're a financial aid recipient. And you would do that the same place that you went this year. I do anticipate, even though there was a delayed opening for this year for the FAFSA, I do anticipate that it should be open, I would hope by October 1st next year. Um, so that would need to be completed in order to be considered for federal and need-based UVM or state aid. Any Vermont residents would need to complete the Vermont grant application again. Students would need to maintain satisfactory academic progress. What that means, there's two different standards that we're really focused on. You need to be maintaining a GPA that is equivalent to the GPA required for your program for graduation. A majority of programs, that's a 2.0 cumulative GPA, but for some programs, they might have a higher GPA, like a 2.3, 2.5. So you should pay attention to what your program is. UVM, you may have heard, started this year collecting the profile application for the new students that will be starting next fall. Don't worry, you will not need to complete the CSS profile and it will not be required for you for future years. I just wanted to share that with you. Anyone that has received a merit scholarship, those require you to maintain full-time enrollment. So you have to be enrolled in at least 12 credit hours. And we will, at the end of spring term, that's normally when we would determine whether you're meeting the GPA requirement. However, since you're starting in the spring semester, you actually will not be assessed until after spring of 26. And you need to maintain at least a 3.0 cumulative GPA. If for some reason you fall below that, even if it's a 2.95, you would lose your merit scholarship and it would not be made up with other aid. We want you to be successful. Please avail yourself of all of the different support systems, everything from, meeting with faculty during their office hours, meeting with TAs, participating in study groups, seeking out tutoring, if you require any accommodations, working with our student accessibility services. But if you do lose your merit scholarship, it can be regained if you, once you get it up to a cumulative 3.0 GPA, but that assessment will only happen in May every year. So if you were to lose it in spring of 26, we would not determine whether you could regain it again until after the spring of 27 semester. So even if you did great in the summer and brought it up, or the fall, we would not reinstate it until the following May assessment, if at that point in time you're above the 3.0. Okay, that's all I had. So let's see, there's some questions here. First question is, what's a good lead time to initiate a 529 plan? As soon as you know, I would say if you get the bill and you're planning on covering the remaining balance, request it right away. But the most important thing is once you've made that request, to send us an email letting us know, show us that you have made that request and the amount that we can expect. Send that email to us. Do you accept electronic transfer of 529 plan payment, or does it have to be sent by check? I believe for some we are able to receive that electronically. I would recommend that you email us about that, and a member of the team can provide you with that information. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, hope this was helpful to you. If you have any questions that, this is not the right format to ask them, please send your questions to our office or give us a call at the number provided. I hope you have a fantastic winter break and look forward to welcoming students here in the spring.